so people, because I know some people like to follow along, and I know some people just want to sit back for the ride and kind of get an overview, and that's fine too. As Glennon said, thank you so much. We would not be able to do this without you. So we're going to have the overview. I will review and the review process. I'll go through that, and then I will go through and show you how this works, because there's the logging in and then there's also the review. So there's two things to learn here. And then we'll do some things together. And then you will get a chance to practice if you would like to have additional practice. There's always Q&A. Don't feel like you're interrupting me at any time. I'm here for you. So Ashley will be monitoring the chat if I miss something, or you can just come off mute and ask. And then there's going to be the individual work time, as Glennon mentioned. So first, I wanted to let you know, if you haven't been to the symposium, this will be our 12th year, and what participants are really looking for is peer-to-peer sharing of expertise. They're not really looking to go to a breakout room where a vendor is trying to sell something. That's why we have an expo hall. And last year, with our feedback survey, we found out that our breakout sessions averaged 4.1 out of 5. So people really enjoy our breakout sessions. And they like for things to be hands-on if it's possible. They like to be able to connect with the presenter. They like to have takeaways, and if possible, they like to leave that weekend and on Monday know that they have something new to share with colleagues or with others or with their students. And I thought I would share this with you. I don't know if we've shared this before. We always ask, how many years have you been an educator? And you can see that we tend to have more veteran teachers. We are making a concerted effort to bring in people who are newer to the profession. But I thought this might be interesting for you to know who's coming to be with us. And then their main reasons for attending, top are the personal growth, the development, the networking, and they come for the content. This year, as we did last year, our overall theme is You Belong in STEAM. And this isn't just students belonging in STEAM and really embracing that they are people who belong in this space, but also that teachers, educators, our after school folks, they all belong in STEAM. And so what that's really talking about is creating conditions to really nurture student agency, identity, and inclusion. We want things to be joyful and interactive. And so what that might look like, as you're going through the review process, you may see that presenters are really highlighting ways to ignite student passion. It might be something that's innovative. Presenters may be showing some intentional collaborations that they're doing that are working really well. Maybe they're working with their expanded learning partners, and it's a way to continue that school day. You may see in some of these proposals that they're highlighting lessons from a classroom. And they may also be sharing like strategies. They may be talking about some curricula that they use, communities of practice. So just a heads up, these are the types of things you may be seeing as you're reviewing. If you're the type of person that you really want to dig down deeper into what does it mean, this our theme, and what are our pathways, which are like tag words that we will be using in our mobile app to help people who are coming to the symposium be able to target. Maybe there's just certain areas that they want to dig deeper in, then we have a mobile app that can use these filter words. So I've got a link here. I'm not going to go through it now, but it's certainly available to you if that's something you'd like to dig deeper in. So first, I'd like to just show you how to log in and kind of what this process looks like. And then we'll go in and I'll actually demonstrate in a live, I'll go into the portal and show you. And so we're going to look at first logging in. Now, you may have received from me yesterday an email that just said, hey, I've already assigned you some presentations. If you didn't receive that yet, it's because I wanted to ask you in this session what kinds of presentations and how many your schedule will allow you to review. But basically, in that email from me yesterday, that gives a link where you can log in. So you would go into our system called CVent, and there will be a screen that'll show up, and you'll have to click login. And then once you log in, you will click my reviews. If you've actually made submissions as well, which I think some of you may have submitted a presentation proposal, that's what this is. But what for today, what you're thinking about is you have your reviewer hat on. So you'll be clicking on my reviews. And just so you know, once you review things, let's say you do all your reviews today, and then you start thinking about things and you're like, I'd like to go back and see that one. You can always go in and edit anything that you've reviewed if you'd like to revisit what you were thinking. And also, before you can get into this system, you will need to create an account. So I'll show you how to do that. Once you've logged in, the questions that we've asked people when they were making their submissions are in black, and then in blue will be their answer. So this is where you would be going in and you're going to be reading like a detailed description and a brief description and the other things that they are giving you. Just so you know, you will not see the names of the people who submitted, the presenter, the primary presenter or the co-presenter. You will get a little demographic information, but the rest of that is hidden. And I just wanted to point out, especially for those of you who may have reviewed for us before, that these are peer-led breakout sessions. And in years past, we asked, hey, let us know if you think this is maybe a vendor, because we can reach out to them and talk to them about the expo hall. In years past, I said, you know what, go ahead and review it as if it isn't a vendor. And then, I'll contact the person later. We've decided for this year, just you will have a section where it'll say, please indicate if it's a potential vendor exhibitor. You'll just type potential vendor, and I'm not going to ask you to review those because I think it could be a waste of your time, and I don't want to waste time. I will then, anytime you type in something like, hey, Karyn, check this out, I'm not sure. If you really think it looks like a potential vendor, just skip that one, but do put potential vendor here. And then I will go back and do the homework on the back end to see if this is someone that we want to review or not. And as you go through and you read the information, the person who submitted the proposal that they've put in, you will be asked to rate things. And so it's on a scale of 5 to 1. And so 5 is like, oh, absolutely, this does align, let's say, to the theme of you belong in STEAM, very moderately, slightly. And then 1 is it's poor or not at all, depending on what the question is. So I just wanted you to know the scale 5 to 1, 5 being the highest. And we're going to ask you to think about things about alignment with the theme, whether you think this is really going to be something that it's a high interest topic. Does this look like this is aligned to the goal of being a peer-led professional learning experience? And then also, will they be providing takeaways that people, are likely to want? And then you get a chance to give your overall evaluation based on all the different things that we've asked you. And then I think this is an important section here. This is at the very end. It'll say, do you have any comments or suggestions about the proposal? Consider this section where you are talking directly to me, because I will read every one of these. And it's really key if you think, if you say to me, this is a hot topic, I'm so glad that this person is going to be, potentially presenting this. we could use more like this, or you know what, I'm on the fence on this one. It's so just whatever it is you want to say, I want you to know this will not be a waste of your time to fill this in with whatever you'd like to say, that I will read it. And then
Karyn, can I interrupt you for ask you a question real fast? In that section that you were just at, is this maybe a place where we're thinking about that math framework room, or potentially too, would this be a place to indicate like this would be a strong candidate for that room as we're thinking about those themes? Or I don't know if there's maybe a different place.
no, I think that's a great idea. I think that if anything says the ones that you all are going to be reviewing, for the most part, they all indicated math framework. Even, I mean, maybe just as like, this is math framework, that's the only tag word that I think is associated with this. And then some have like 3 different tag words, and math framework's one of them. So you may find that some are absolutely, we want it in that math framework room because we think this really will create a nice tie to other content like that. I think that's a good place to put it. So thank you for that. So now I'm going to go into the portal, and I'm going to log in, and we're going to look at one that I've assigned to me just so you can see what it looks like. As I said, when you come in, there's a letter here as if you're going to submit a proposal, but the deadline's already passed. So really all we can do here is log in. So I logged in because I've created an account. I should have shown you back there, but it says you need to create an account, and you'll click there. You'd put in your email, and then you would select your password. So now that I'm in, I can go to my submissions, but I'm not interested in that at this point. What we're interested in is my reviews. So I'm going to click on that. And I see that I have 2 presentation proposals to review. You will see that you have somewhere between 8 and 12 to review. So I'm going to go in, and let's look at my first one. And as I mentioned, I can see what the person was asked in black, and then their response is in blue. And so most of this is not going to be something you're going to look closely at. We did ask them a question. If you've reviewed in the past, we asked, do you have funding? If you're able to present, can you come to this? Because we're just very curious about that. It's not anything you need to worry with. It's just something for our information. But I wanted you to know that that is there. So when you get down to this part where it says your presentation title, this is where you'll start to pay attention to the submission. And then we've asked them to provide 2 different descriptions. One is going to be the detailed description, and this is written solely for reviewers. No one else will see this. It will not show up in the app, and it will not be provided to attendees. So this is the place that they had 2,000 characters to paint the picture for you on what would it look like if you were to go to this presentation. Now, they do only have 2,000 characters, so, forgive them if they use a lot of bullets. But this is hopefully where you can get the gist of like, oh, I see what this is about. I see how they're going to do it. And I see what the attendee experience will be like. So you will read that part closely. And then you'll come down to, we asked, do they need to bring devices? Because we need to let people know if this type of experience requires a device, whether they're providing a device or whether no device is needed. And then you will get to the brief description. And where this shows up is in our mobile app. And this is what attendees will view as they're making their decisions on which breakout sessions they want to go to. So they only had 600 characters. They had to be short and sweet. If you think they really missed the mark on their brief description, it's like, you know what, that really doesn't describe what the person will experience. in that comment section to me below, you could say, you know what, great presentation, but they need to rework their brief description. And then if we accept it, I can go back to them and say, you know what, this is confusing, or could you rewrite this for us, because we don't think it'll be helpful as it is to attendees. We do not require people to give us a presentation link or a file. They may not have the presentation ready at this point because the event's in February. But if they do have it, we gave them a place where they could provide it for you. So it may be a Google link, it may be a PowerPoint. And so for this one, there was nothing uploaded. We don't ding them for that or say, oh, well, they're not very prepared. We don't require it. But if they did want to present it to you, then please do look at it. We have several formats that they can choose from for their presentation. And so this person has chosen a 60-minute interactive collaboration. And this is just, they choose, you know, do they want 30 minutes and it's a quick talk? Do they want a 60-minute panel? And so you'll be able to see what they're requesting as far as how much time I should schedule for them and what type of room I need to give them for their presentation. Some of our breakout sessions will be in our makerspace this year, which is like I don't know, it's ginormous, 5,000 square foot makerspace, and there'll be classrooms enclosed within that. And so that's going to be for people who are going to be talking about making and want people to make things and have materials around. So this would, again, just give you an idea of you know, are they wanting a traditional breakout room? Or are they thinking this is so interactive and kind of noisy that they want the makerspace area? And then we've asked them which of the tag words or pathways are they most aligned to? And this is where you'll see that Math Framework will be one of these, if not the only one. I may have assigned you one or two other ones that have nothing to, that don't say Math Framework, but I thought, you know, this seems related. So forgive me if all of yours aren't just Math Framework, because I may have given like computer science, because I think that there's something related there. And then you can see what grade level, what grade band it's most aligned to, and then what state standards their presentation is aligned to. A key part of the symposium is equity and access to opportunities. And so we are signaling here to people who are submitting a presentation that we really want the presentation, part of it, if not all of it, to be talking about you know, how this is addressing equity in STEAM learning. And so this, if they just say, well, you know, all kids should have STEAM, that's not really equity. And so this is another indication for you of what type of experience our audience will have that are in the room, and it should be a thoughtful response. And then we ask that they have immediately applicable resources available. Maybe it's a website, maybe it's some research that they're following. Maybe it's a lesson plan, like a sample lesson plan. So we ask them to, you know, let us know what it is that they are providing to the attendees. And it shouldn't be something like, well, we're giving t-shirts to everyone. Like, that's not a takeaway. We've had people say that before. We're giving them all keychains. Like, well, that's not exactly what we're talking about. So through all of that, hopefully you'll, by the end at this point, you'll be like, okay, I see where they're going and I see what this is about. So now you're getting to your work part, which is where you'll be rating the presentation. This is where you'll say, you know, this looks like a vendor. I'm not going to review it because, you know, they said they're selling their curriculum. And I'll talk to them about the expo hall. And then you're going to get down to the parts where you're rating it. So you'll, let's say for this, if it's not a vendor, you don't have to put anything. This isn't a required field. The rest of these, you'll see the red asterisk, and that means it is a required field. So for this, I'm going to go through and I'm going to say, yes, this is absolutely aligned to the theme. You know what? It does look like excellent peer-led professional learning. Is it a high interest topic? Yes, it is. Was it well written? Well, they could have done better, but I see what they're saying. Um, how will they interact? I did absolutely understand that through their description. It did tell me how they were addressing concepts of diversity and equity. And I do think that this would really provide some real world information to attendees. Overall, I'm going to give it a 4. And then I'm going to say, for the maker space, so, you don't have to put anything in this field, only if you feel like you want to. Again, this one isn't required. Now, at this point, let's say you get a phone call and you're like, I can't finish this, just do save and it'll save your work. Or if you feel like, okay, I'm ready to go, then you will submit. And then it'll come back to this My Reviews page. And now I can see what the rating is. And as I said, at any point, you can edit it up until the deadline. So I'm going to pause there. Where there are questions, you guys are fast learners. That was a lot of information, but I appreciate that. All right. So now I will share my screen again. All right. So here's where we're going to do some things together. For now, I have several samples, and you're going to be able to look at those on your own, grade, and then I show you what the reviewer last year, because these are last year or the past 2 years, some actual presentations. And then I provide, here's what that average score was. So you can start to calibrate, like how far are you off from where, what is a 4.0 grade and what's a 2.0. So I thought what we would do is take a couple of minutes and we'll read this. This is only the detailed description. So you're not seeing everything here, but let's go ahead and see if we can read this. And then I'm going to ask you in a minute, we'll put in the chat and sort of do a waterfall. And I'll say, type in your score 1 to 5, and then we'll see with each other how close are we, how far apart, and we can reflect on why we gave it the grade we gave. So I'm going to go quiet so you can read this description for the collaborative math project exploration proposal. Okay, in the next minute, I'm going to ask that you score it, and you can put it in the chat, but if you would, don't press enter yet, and we'll just reveal what each person is thinking. So let's imagine that we are giving this just an overall grade. Do you think this is the type of presentation that is aligned with what we're wanting for the STEAM Symposium? 5 would be absolutely, and 1 would be not at all. And then there's the in-betweens. So if you will type your number in, and I'm going to count down and we'll hit go or enter in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you. Looks like we are pretty aligned because I see 4s and 5s. Would someone like to come off mute and let us know like why you chose 4 or why you chose 5?
I'm happy to come off mute. I chose 4 because I haven't, sometimes when I do these, I'll look and see kind of what is in my batch. You know, they're supposed to be standalone, but I chose 4 because it leaves room for something to really be outstanding. And I don't have the whole proposal, but I did think about 5. So I think it's right there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a conservative score in general, so
yeah, and that's fine, and that's why we have every presentation gets at least 2 reviews. So that also, if you're more conservative, somebody else might be a little more on the other end. But I appreciate that. I also appreciate what you said about, well, this is all you've read is just the description. You didn't get to read about equity. You didn't get to read about takeaways and that sort of thing. So I appreciate you playing the game, but you're right. I sort of made it tricky for you. Anybody else like to come off and say why they chose what they chose?
I'm happy to come off mute. And I chose 5 just because I was thinking about through the lens of also an attendee and a teacher, and that what they could, definitely take away. It was hands-on engaging. They were actually not just hearing about how you could do this, but they were actually doing the project. And I think that that makes it more relevant to be able to take away the fact that there was annotating some of the math vocabulary and really connecting the mathematics and the art and making that integration made it a more engaging proposal. Then, yes, this is the only one we've read, but I will just go back to proposals I've read in this, overall in conferences. So that's why I chose 5, but I appreciate what Monique said as well, is that we have some limited context and we don't know this might be amazing, but there could even be more amazing ones too. So appreciate that edit opportunity too.
And I think to expand on that as well, because I'm wondering, like, how are they directly connecting it with that math vocabulary? What terms are they using? What standards are they referencing? And like, I'm imagining best case scenario, they are incorporating that into their presentation, but I think it is a little hard since we are limited in what's available to us. So maybe too, that's something for us to consider. Like, are we assuming best case scenario where they are filling in those gaps? Obviously, unless they uploaded a presentation, we don't know for sure. So that might be an important consideration too.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and you're right. It's like there's plenty we don't know. Like, we don't know what are the person's presentation skills. Are they able, like they have a great presentation, but are they able to deliver it? And so some things we do have to assume. Best intentions and best practices with that. So there's limitations on what we know. So we are having to sometimes trust a gut a little bit, but we at least do see what like state standards they are referencing generally. So if they don't reference any state standards, then that would be like, that's interesting, because how are they doing this if they're not aligning to the standards? Did anyone else have something they wanted to reflect on? All right. In the presentation, if you're following along with me, well, here, let me share. That'd be easier for you. I did put other places that we would be rating this. Is it describing, is it a high interest topic and things like that? So all I asked you was to put in the chat, a 5 or 4, 3, 2, 1 based on the description. But the questions that you will see in the portal are here if you would like to look at those a little now and you're not logged in and you just wanted to know, the things that we were asking. Because remember, you're going to be rating in a lot of areas and then giving your general overall. So things will average out. The average for the one that we were just looking at was a 4.1, and it was reviewed 3 times. So I would say we're all right there with the previous reviewers from last year. All right. So now on slide 29, I do have a link to more samples. To the sample that we just looked at, but you can see everything the person reviewed. So if you wanted to take time and go through and read, the green is the part that the person submitted. And you can go through the whole presentation, and then you can see I put a comment on what the average grade was at the end of it. So you could read through and then say, overall, how would I have graded this? And then check yourself just to see what others, it's not like that was the only right thing, but this is how other people in the past have looked at it. And I have another sample for you, and then a third sample. And so to me, this was a bit of a crossroad. So if you are feeling like, you know what, I've done this, I feel good about it, and you want to go ahead and start doing some reviews of your own, you are welcome to either just turn off your camera and work, or you can leave and come back in. I will be here until noon. So I've had it in years past where people went off and started to do their review, and then they came back and they said, all right, Karyn, this one's tricky. I need some help on this. This is confusing. And so we talked it through. And so that's, I'm happy to do that for you if that's what you would like to do. If you want to stay and be with me, we can go through a sample and do it again together. So I am going to pause and see what works for each person, because you don't have to decide as a group. Some can go and some can stay.
Karyn, can you show me where it says it's in the comments section, like where those actually scored in this sample? I don't see the comments when I open that.
Oh, okay.
No, maybe.
So in between sample 1 and sample 2, I had put a comment and said reviewers gave an average grade of 4.19. I wonder if the permissions are such that it's keeping you from seeing that.
Yeah, the comments are great. Like when I go to view comments, that's a grayed out option. So it doesn't look like I have access to that, but.
Same.
I will go in and I will just type in, because can you see
I
it
can
now?
do that. I'll figure it out right now.
Okay, thank you. And other questions?
I am happy to stay. I do have to leave at 10, so but I'm happy to stay and look at another one if everybody wants to, or I can work quietly as well.
Thank you.
I'm available to look at some.
All right. Well, just so you know, I will not be feel slighted in the least if anyone goes off camera and feels like they want to go and try one on their own. As I said, I'm here until noon, so do as works best for you. For those who want to stay, why don't we do this? Since we've read the beginnings of this first one, which was, the collaborative math project exploration, you've read the detailed description. How about now if we could go through and I'll be quiet and you can read what else they said, because I think getting to what Monica said and Monique said, and to Amber, let's see if this starts to fill in some gaps and see whether your grade goes up, down, or stays the same.
Sorry about you guys. I stepped out for a second and then I'm like, the group broke away.
So we are working, looking through a sample together that we had only read the description of earlier, and now we're reading all the response that the submitter put in, and we're trying to determine what our grading scale, where we would be on the grading scale for it.
Got it.
So if you have the sample presentation proposals to review document, if you don't already have that, we can put it, I think the link is there in the chat that Ashley put in. And so we're reading that first sample one all the way through.
Okay, thank you.
Can I be distracting and ask a question while some of us are probably still reading? Karyn, this question's for you. So in this first example, the proposal comments that it could either be in a makerspace, like the proposal could see in a makerspace or the traditional space. So when that typically happens, does the foundation kind of like make a call on where they see it fit best based on room needs and proposal type? Okay.
Yes, that would be my responsibility to balance it, and then also to make the judgment call on whether it would be too noisy or whether it's the perfect spot.
Gotcha. Is that something that you're hoping for feedback on, like in the comment section, or is that usually done separately?
We have never done this before. I'm giving
Okay.
people a choice like this. So if you have like if it kind of prickles your brain, you're like, this is really a good idea, you can let me know. Because I would appreciate some help on making some of these determinations, because we only have so many breakout rooms. So I'm creating more in the makerspace to be sure we can get all the content into the symposia that we want.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I really like that idea, especially for like the hands-on kind of, because people love the makerspace and they tend to spend a lot of time there.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how this works this year. We always try to tweak and make things better. Count, Play, Explore is going to be there as one of our makerspace leads. And so they'll have one day where they'll have their own little stations set up for people. So I'm thinking they may also have a classroom so people can go to the classroom, learn some things, and then go and tinker and play and have some fun. Well, as people are finishing sample 1, I'm sorry if I'm jumping in, but did anyone find that their grade changed based on more information?
I would increase my score. I felt that the applicant addressed all the areas. I thought they were thoughtful. And I like how it has a kind of a component where you can actively just try it out in your classroom. It's not going to be a huge heavy lift. So when teachers go and attend, they come back with something. So I thought it was a well-written proposal.
And that's so funny, Monique. I would probably be a little bit more conservative. I feel like the equity piece was addressed, but maybe that would be an area that I thought that it could have been a little bit more explicit. I did read on to sample 2, so it's when you do have like more samples to kind of like gauge. I thought sample 2's equity response was more of what an outstanding overall proposal would have. So that was one of the changes that I have, but I would say it would be between a 4 and a 5, but I think you only do whole numbers. So that's going to be a little problematic.
And just to let you know, in years past, I guess this will be my 6th year doing this, we tend to have more highly rated presentations than we can accept. So we always do have quite the waiting list, which hurts me. I hate to have a waiting list, but it's the reality that I live in. And we tend to not take presentations that score below. I think it tends to be like 3.8, 3.9, and it's only because maybe I'll go in and be like, what, nobody else is addressing this topic, and I can work with the presenter to, flesh things out a little bit. But if something were to get, let's say, a 3.0, they're likely not to be. Not that that's your pressure of like, oh, I have to give them a little more, but it's just, I thought I would let you know in the past where it tends to be that it's usually 4.0 and higher that are accepted. But just because people are waitlisted, it's not because it's a low grade. But we only have room for about 100 breakout sessions. And if 125 of them are really excellent, 25 are on the wait list.
That's really helpful because I feel like that's extra permission to be extra picky. So real helpful context.
Yeah,
I will also be honest and say that I originally gave this one a 3, and then when everyone was writing 5 in the chat, I changed it to 4 because I was feeling, but I would probably give it a 4 after reading all of it, but my first inclination of a 3 was honestly because I didn't it was my first review and I didn't have any, anything to look, to compare it to. And I also didn't feel like it was very meaty proposal in that description. So I would maybe give it a 4. Although I wasn't off, because if the average was 4.1, there was other people that also gave it a lower score. But for me, I'm kind of in a little bit like, wow, I don't see this one in a regular breakout room at all. Like I can't picture it in that way. So I thought it was interesting that they said that it could be in both. I see this as like a total makers space sort of situation. So maybe that's just because I'm not seeing how it would take 60 minutes other than, them playing around for 60 minutes. But that's my
Making their art takes time. No.
Yeah, I mean it does, you're right, but I'm just thinking like if I'm a teacher and I'm going, me personally, I would be frustrated that I spent 60 minutes doing when I could have probably gleaned the idea a lot quicker in a makerspace scenario.
Well, you bring up a really good point. When I get all the scores in, if I see someone has said 3.0 and somebody has said 5.0, that's a big enough difference that then I give a third reviewer. A lot of times, if it's really tricky, then I go in and I review all the ones that are just like, okay, it's the power of having all of us review it because we all have our own lens and framework, our own framing of things. And that's what I appreciate. I also realize I'm not going to get everybody aligned, and that's wonderful. So you be you, Alexis, and I will have a third reviewer if we need, and a fourth. I've had as many as 5 where we were just on the fence. People hated it, people loved it. And it's like, all right, we got to give this person a fair shake. So don't feel like you have to be anything other than exactly who you are and what you bring to it.
Thank you. That's helpful.
And I think that's who your attendees are too, right? Like some attendees are going to want to spend that time and some are not. So like your perspective, Alexis, I think is really valuable in that there are going to be teachers that have your perspective and that just kind of that can probably pick things up pretty quickly. And there's some that would be really frustrated if they didn't go through the whole process, right? And so those are the attendees. That's this kind of the spectrum. So another thing that I always like to look for as an attendee, and that's something to look for in the proposals is, hey, that's an art lesson. Like, okay, do I have access to the slide deck that I could go back to later am I not going to choose that because I don't want to do the activity now? So those are things. I do have a question, Karyn. So like, for instance, and this is maybe a role we have in this sample proposal, it does say, it gives the options for the mobile app and they chose art integration, creativity and design thinking and the math framework. And so this would, as an example, like, I think this would have been for me an interesting session to attend, but I would not have put it in the math framework room. Like, I do not think that that's necessarily, I'm asking this with this whole team. I don't think this meets what we're really looking for to meet our goals of what, like, promoting the math framework is about. So that's what we could maybe put in the comments. So it's not that it's not relevant to the STEAM Symposium, but to the math framework room. I think that that's something that we could potentially clarify in our comments.
I think that's a very good observation. I know there's always like the art, trying to bring the art design theme into the STEAM Symposium. And sometimes it's hard to get, or at least maybe not anymore, but when I worked on the STEAM Symposium years ago, it was hard to find that like right thing that combined like an academic content, sorry, and art together. That's, like a core content with the arts that could be relevant. So I agree, it's probably not like true math. It's more on the art side than the heavy math side.
Well, I'm wondering, hearing what you're saying, because we've never done a math framework room before. So we get to make up the rules. And so I'm thinking maybe what I should do is after I get everything's graded and we have our acceptance, there's time before I actually schedule things into rooms. And so maybe I come back to this team and say, here are let's say it's 20 that we're going to accept that have math framework. So they're aligned somehow. And then please let me know, rank these, like which ones, or, indicate which ones you think belong in a math framework room, or maybe we need to have two rooms. That would help me because I don't have your exact lens and I could use guidance on that.
I think that would be really helpful because my initial inclination when Rebecca was talking was I totally agreed that I didn't think this should be in the math framework. But then when Monique was talking, even though you were, I don't know if you were agreeing or not, but when we're thinking about the big ideas of the math framework and equity and access and things like that, that might be arts geared for some students, right? Because mathematically accessible stuff could look different. So I would love that. So we could kind of frame it in that way and see what we're working with. And then if we need to maybe sort of, not we, but somebody has conversations with them like, hey, you're in the math framework. Here's how you're going to really be clear as to why you're in this room to point that out to attendees.
Yeah, I think the arts for some people, it is the on-ramp, and they don't see themselves as math people. They don't see themselves as science people. And you give them some art thing, and then they realize the vocabulary and the processes that go along with it, and then you get them hooked. So I can see what you're saying, Alexis. It could be you do want to have some content like that for those who teachers themselves don't see themselves sometimes as math people. So it could be they come to it not because they want to go to a math session necessarily, because they're like, oh, I'm not good at math. I mean, secretly they have these anxieties, right? And you get them in a math thing, in an art thing, and they may feel like, oh, I am mathematical because I can do this.
Or on the other end too, math teachers are predominantly very linear thinkers, and to have them have access to see that there are different accessibility points for students that aren't just so prescribed, that could also be helpful on that front too.
Well, I will definitely have it as something to run by you once we get to the point in November where I see what's accepted and then look for guidance on what we want to have in that math or room or rooms. And I do meet with presenters if they would like to meet with me, and I help them get ready for the symposium. And so this is something for those who are accepted into the math room who may not really understand all that this team is hoping for. I could give them context so that they can, understand the alignment for how they fit in the day for other people in other presentations. Thank you so much, Monique. So I think we're at another crossroads. We can keep going with another sample. And if you would like to go and try something on your own, you're welcome to. Would someone like to do sample number 2 with us? Yeah, okay. I think I saw a yes, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, I'm down to do number 2. I do have a question though. So I had logged into the account, or I set up my account and logged in. I'm not assigned to any reviews. I also didn't receive an email yesterday. So I'm just not sure if that's like maybe something that needs to happen in the background or.
That is me because Amber, I think you may be the one that I didn't assign to because I wasn't sure if you wanted math framework, if you wanted computer science. Like I wasn't sure which ones that would fall under your area of expertise that you most wanted to look at. So I thought I would find out from you, and I can do it quickly on the back end, and then you can get in. What would you like?
I mean, I think I was thinking math framework since that's the purpose of the room that I'm supporting. But if there's a couple like computer science ones that you want to tack in there, because that would be helpful, I'm happy to do a couple of those as well.
Okay, all right. Did anyone else not receive an email from me yesterday? It should be in your inbox. I think everybody else should have. All right. So I'm going to go off camera for just a minute so I can assign Amber some presentations so that you have something